Hello YouTube, the Alpha Hunter here has returned with a video that is slightly controversial in the gaming realm. And no, I'm not talking about microtransactions, though it's already been a dead horse beaten several times. It's really not worth going back to when there's a clear consensus within the gaming community of the microtransactions place. Today I want to talk about why I believe that console gamers have a little bit more skill than PC gamers. I know some of you are already pausing at this moment to go and type that I'm such an idiot, or that I am just something bad. I implore you, give me a chance, and at least take a shot in listening and seeing what I have to say. Now, do keep in mind I'm keeping it within the realms of a first-person shooter game. The PC game, the PC gamer is going to have a mouse and keyboard, which is what I believe standard for many personal computers, and the consoles are going to have their only way of controlling controllers. Me, I normally play an Xbox One, and I have my mom, she plays on PlayStation. She also plays on a laptop. My dad plays on a computer as well, though not as often anymore. So I think I might have a little bit of experience into this, and so some of my points may be flawed. And I implore you, if you do find this interesting and you make a response video, leave it in the comments below. I'm really interested to see what I can learn. Now, let us begin. The question I have to ask for this first point, and I'm asking all of you dear hunters out there listening, watching, I ask you, which would you rather depend on when it comes to aiming in such a game? Your wrist or a stick? Wrist or stick? You have your answer? My money is on most, if not all of you saying a wrist. And you're not wrong. It's actually much better when you use your wrist because it's more under your control compared to an analog stick, which has to deal with a bit of a delayed reaction from your actual response. And I try to stay away from a bit of science. I know very little about bodily responses other than that it's mainly neural impulses made by electricity and a few others within your body that sends signals to and from your brain for movement. When it comes to aiming, if you don't get your aim there on your target quick enough and keep it consistent on your target, you're going to miss more of your shots. You're not going to land as many shots, and you're going to be defeated quicker by your opponent, especially if they can do the other things I listed that you cannot. Remember how I said wrist or stick? An analog stick is much slower compared to your wrist in being able to aim on to your target and keep it consistently on it. And that's fair to make. It's one reason why PC is considered the better experience. It's much easier to aim, especially in first-person shooter games. And so with a delayed reaction from the joystick, and for most it's the right joystick that's used for aiming, you have to start kind of planning your skills, planning your move, planning all that what you have in order to be able to come out of this fire brighter. That's why some of the greatest console gamers who know how to handle all of this, who know about their aim, who know about their delayed reaction, who know about their weapons and their abilities, and who knows their limits, can go into a gunfight, fight tooth and claw, and fight hard, and come out stronger and alive. And truly, it's a spectacle, and it's amazing to watch someone do that. It still surprises me every time I see it. And it surprises me when I start doing it sometimes too. Although eventually someone just shoots me out of complete nowhere and kills me. Sad face. And anywho, I think it's much easier on PC to do that kind of play, to do all that kind of play, than it is on console. And they're more likely to come out on top. Now that's only my first point. Again, the question comes up concerning recoil and ghost bullets, wrist or stick. On PC, when you have to deal with recoil, it's much easier to do so than an analog stick. If you're starting to stray away from your target, almost instantly the moment you notice, you can be on your target and hitting it again, thus defeating the target quicker and saving more rounds, even if it's 1 or 2 compared to console gamers. When you're using an analog stick, you kind of have to drag that analog stick a bit, depending on your sensitivity and how used to it you are. When I play Destiny 2, my sensitivity is on 4 or 5. I forgot, but I know it's around one of those two numbers. And that's because I don't like the jerk around, try to go like instant quick and all that. I prefer it where I can actually kind of keep my aim consistent, and it's also better for snipers too. But on PC, sensitivity is not really, as I said before, much of an issue. It just depends on how well your wrist is at moving. But back to recoil, one of the guns you use in one of the games I play called Destiny 2 is called The Last Word. If you don't know how to handle recoil, this gun's going to be a bit of punishment for you. When you're hip firing, man, this thing's a bit stable, but you're also going to have to kind of move down on your aim in order to keep the recoil consistently on the target. And when you're on PC, not really much to deal with. Then when it comes to aiming down the sights on the thing, oh, that recoil just starts skyrocketing. But again, on PC, on your wrist, it doesn't really matter that much. You can still keep your aim consistent. That's why you see clips of people on PC beating machine guns consistently with The Last Word and being able to take down Guardians with 3 or 4 headshots. On console, oh boy, you're going to have to put some effort into it. That thing will fly. That thing will shoot up to the sky if you don't know how to handle the recoil. You're going to miss more of your shots. And this gun's made to be a hip fire gun. When I first got it, I tried it out and I started handling the recoil a little bit. And I was getting good with it. Some of my earlier clips that I let Mamij SASTH use on his channel, it just shows me being able to kick some tail with The Last Word. And each and every day, it's train and train and train. Make sure I can handle that recoil. Make sure I'm able to land the shots. And so handling the recoil is one thing that you must really practice when you're using this gun. As for others, the recoil varies. Hand cannons tend to have a lot more recoil, though the submachine gun does have recoil coming in quickly. And speaking of hitting shots consistently, I want to talk about a phenomenon in gaming that Deicide, in his video, if I remember correctly, entitled Improving Your Aim with The Last Word in PvP for Destiny 2. I'll leave a link in the description box below for that. But he mentions the phenomenon in 2 different ways, and I only remember the second one, the ghost bullet phenomenon. It is when even when you're keeping your aim consistent on a target, where it's always showing red, meaning it's locked onto the target's hitbox, and you start firing, some of those bullets do not register, and thus they count as missed shots. He says on PC, or he says something to the effect of on PC, this is near non-existent. All shots are pretty consistent. And in Destiny 2, hand cannons are the meta on PC. because they are more consistent. That's why you see people on PC using hand cannons like Ace of Spades, Last Word, Luna's Howl, sometimes Duke Mark 44, Service Revolver, and so on and so forth, and landing shots consistently. On console, you're not going to find that kind of consistency with hand cannons, and that could be on the fault of the developers. But still, when you have to deal with hit registration on PC, most if not all shots hit the target when you're aiming and shooting at them. On console, it is subject to this phenomenon. And so when you're dealing with hitting your shots, you're going to find it much easier on PC to take down targets because most of your shots are hitting, most if not all. Whereas on console, some to maybe half your shots are hitting because of this phenomenon, and it occurs commonly. I didn't even notice this. All I know is that I'm gunning down the target until they're dead. I guess I should keep an eye on how much ammo I use. I'll try to remember that. Now I'm going to start hitting on something that's a little bit tougher, but should help to kind of bring in understanding. The third point I have is about modification. Now this one I'm not going to really handle wrist or stick, but instead I'm going to say controller or keyboard. When it comes to game bindings, especially in first-person shooter, it depends on how you play. If you're used to the X button being to reload, B to punch somebody, and clicking the left joystick to crouch, then you're going to have to modify it that way. On PC, if you're used for the W button being run forward, space to jump, and let's say Y to reload and E to pick up a weapon, you're going to have to adjust to that. However, on PC, you can generally modify the key bindings to be a specific key, whereas on consoles, you have to choose between 8, maybe 10 different types of control that have already has set controls. You can't make, oh, well, I can go to this one and just make it Y. Or I can just go to this one and make it A. I can just go to this one and make it clicking right analog stick. PC generally has that ability. Thus, it makes it easier to modify all of the different key bindings to your specific needs. Whereas console, you generally can, but you also have to adapt to the other bindings as well. If you're not used to B being crouch, then it's going to take you a while when you have a certain key binding in order to be able to actually handle that. And thus being able to handle all of these modifications, it's much easier on PC to be able to take down opponents when you have a great setup for everything. Whereas on console, if you want to get extra buttons, you're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to pay to add it, pay to get one that already has it, or you're going to have to pay for the parts in order to be able to modify it yourself. And so when that pay-to-win aspects starts popping into gaming, yeah, I can say that for those who have to deal with the already set key bindings on the controller, they have to learn and adapt more to it. Whereas for PC, it's much easier. It's much more flexible and there's much more options. And because of that, I think that when you have to adapt more, you're learning faster. You're able to quickly be able to handle all of these different challenges and thus gain some skill. The theoretical part of this video is here. I want to talk about frame rates. Now, for those who don't quite understand, what I do know about frame rates is that it's also FPS, frames per second. The amount of frames within that 1 second time is how many pictures are taken within that second. the more pictures that are taken, the better the response from the game is. And by response, I mean like showing everything, showing that, hey, there's somebody shooting you, hey, there's somebody coming around from the door or the corner or from the hallway. And you can react quicker and better to it. That's as much as I know. I could be wrong. But what I do know is that consoles are restricted on how high their frames can be. Whereas on PC, as far as I have seen, as far as I have heard, they can generally go up and down all over the place for the amount of frames. And that's been especially true ever since Destiny 2 has been announced on PC and people on PC has played it. They said that there's an almost unlimited amount of frames that you can do on Destiny 2. Now, the lower the frames, the slower the game is going to be in conveying the things on the screen. Forgive me, I had a bunch of things trying to come out at once. Now, if an enemy's coming around a corner or coming from a doorway, you want to have it at least higher than a low frame rate, so that way you can tell, oh, hey, this guy's coming around, let me start planning my actions. Whereas if it's slower, you're going to slowly respond and thus be defeated. Again, this is more of like the planning aspect, which I think many of you have caught on. It's the main reason why is because console gamers have to deal with a little bit more trouble than PC. And like I said, one of them is frames. So theoretically, having to deal with lower frame rates and having to get used to it means they can handle it when they can handle all of their actions when it comes down to low frame rates. And this can be especially true when a console gamer who has to deal with lower frame rates heads on to a PC and tries it out, ignoring their inexperience with the key bindings and how it kind of works. Once they get that handled, they can really surprise themselves on how well they've trained on console. Having to deal with lower frame rates means you have to be constantly planning, constantly be thinking on your feet. You have to be kind of clever. And well, I'm still learning that, but I'll get there soon enough. And so when having to deal with lower frame rates, theoretically would start helping you prepare for problems that may come out of seemingly nowhere, and thus get your planning skills up and running and improving, and thus be able to handle more scenarios. Whereas on PC, yes, there are those that have to deal with low frame rates. And I'm sorry if you have to deal with those. That means you too can experience all the different difficulties when dealing with lower frame rates. But I have to say, as far as I have seen, as far as I have experienced, and as far as I have heard, consoles generally have lower frame rates than PC gamers. And thus, they have to start planning their actions. They have to start thinking about what's going to come around that bend. They have to start thinking about how they're going to aim, what they're going to use. Yeah, PC, you can generally do that, but again, when you're having consistent shots, when you're not having to deal with ghost bullets, when your abilities are being well used and well aimed, it doesn't require as much planning. So I hope you can understand that point. And now, let's see what you remember. So to sum it up, the main reason why I think console gamers have more skill is because they have to deal with more difficulties, like the 4 I've mentioned, more often and in a little bit more harsh environments than PC gamers do. And so when you have all of this difficulty, well, the Forge is soon going to help create this sword. Meaning all of this difficulty, all of this challenge will soon forge players into a better player. When you don't have to deal with as much difficulties, you don't really evolve much. But if you have to handle many of them, much of them, many of them, you will be forged into a much skilled player. Like I said, I'm not thinking little of PC gamers. They have their own difficulties as well. They have to gain skill. And I'm not saying, oh, you're just so little skilled compared to gamers that you're insignificant. No. I think they have skill too. I'm just saying by a slight margin that console gamers have a little bit more. And I hope people understand that. And now, all these points, that's the main reason why I think so. And it took me a while to think of this. Even before I started this channel, I was thinking about it. Okay, so what do console gamers have to deal with more? Why would I say this? And these are the reasons I could come up with. And I may be flawed. I may be thinking something I'm not supposed to. My logic isn't consistent somewhere. I may be inexperienced with some things. I may not understand things as well. And I really think so for like the frames. I think I may not understand fully myself. But just so you know, I mainly play Xbox. I really love Xbox. I was raised on it. I played the original Xbox. I played Xbox 360. I played Xbox One. I've played Xbox One Slim. I've played PS4 for certain. I think PS3 or 2. And I've also played on the computer a little bit. My grandfather has played on Xbox, all three of them. And he also has played on computer as well. He himself has Destiny 2 on the computer. And the main reason why he likes the controller better than the mouse and keyboard is because he's more comfortable with it. But he does like also playing on PC. And like I said, if you're looking for a better gaming experience, generally it's on PC. Just keep in mind when you're doing that, you may not encounter as much difficulties as you would on a console. So if you want to forge your skills a bit and test out to see if you're going to do well, I'd suggest at least start on a console. Because once you've got the hard difficulties down, PC will be a little bit easier for you. But like I said, that is just my opinion. I do want to hear yours. Let me know what you think. Put it down in the comments below. And also, if you do make response videos to it, please leave a comment with the link to the video. I want to see where I messed up. I want to see what y'all guys think as well. It is a very great thing, discussions. And I really hope to see what I can learn, as well as all of you. Anywho's, thank you all very much for watching. I hope y'all have a great evening, and until next time, hunters. And most of all, good hunting.